Hello, everybody. It's Fiona Lukis here for my Friday live, as I come to you live on every Friday afternoon at approximately 1:30, give or take 5 or 10 minutes. I'm sorry, I am running late. I was with a client and went over time. I don't like to just finish a session bang on if someone's needs a little bit more of my time. So sometimes I get a little bit behind schedule. So my apologies for that. Okay, so here we are, Friday Live, Friday, March the 4th of 2022. So if you have just joined me live, I do apologize. I am running about 9 minutes behind schedule today. So if you've been waiting for me, I am sorry about that. Now, who has a question? Feel free to comment or post in the comments below. I do have a question here that I will answer. But if you've just joined me live, please say hi. Oh, hi, Daryl. Hi, nice to see you. Welcome. Always lovely to see you there. Hi, Dwayne from Brooks, Maine. Okay, beautiful. Brooks, Maine. Now, what time is it in Maine at the moment? What time is it there? Hi, Dicko. Hi, nice to see you. Welcome. Hey, Tasha. Hi, darling. I haven't seen you for ages. Ages. Hello, Wendy. Yes, I can absolutely answer you. That one is a great question. 9:42 p.m. Okay, all right. So you must be Eastern time, I'm guessing there. Hey, John. Hi. I sent you a message. You haven't responded to me. You're hiding from me. Hi, Tracy. Nice to see you. Yeah, I can imagine it's hard to tune in with work. Well, thank you anyway. And thank you everyone for saying hello. It's lovely to see you here. And, I've got a couple of things I want to talk to you about today. So, yes, you would be the day before us, Dwayne. Yes, that's right. You're still on the 3rd of March. Isn't it amazing how that happens? James, oh my God, hello. I was just thinking about you the other day. I really and truly was wondering how you are. And I was actually going to reach out to you and just say hi and see how you are. So, yes, you would actually be asleep because it's literally the middle of the night in the UK right now. So I'm very impressed that you're joined us here. And you're doing night shift, honey. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Haven't seen you on a call for a little while. Well, lovely to see you, honey. Always. Okay, everyone. Thanks so much for saying hi. I do love to know. I so appreciate it. I sit here sometimes thinking, okay, well, it looks like I'm talking to myself, or I'm not sure if anyone's out there listening. So nice to know that there are people out there and to know where you're from. Where are you from, Wendy? Are you in Australia or are you overseas as well? I'm going to answer your question in a second because that's a really, really great question. I was actually just working with a client very early this morning in the UK, and it's so interesting. She and her husband have been seeing a traditional. I'm going to say traditional because I'm kind of non-traditional. Not that. Yeah, let's just leave it at that. Oh, you're in Phillip Island. Oh, okay, no worries. Not too far from me. They've been seeing a traditional counsellor, and things have been getting worse and worse. They are trying to get past an affair, and actually, funnily enough, there's the question I have had today is how do I get past an affair, or where feels as though trust has been broken, or where there's been a major lie or something along those lines, right? And it was so interesting because, and I'm coming back to your question, Wendy. They've been seeing this therapist for a while, and please. When I say this, I'm not trying to make anybody wrong here. I'm just trying to show you the difference between the different ways you can approach something that actually make the difference versus having people feel more helpless and hopeless, okay? And it's nobody's fault. I'm not blaming anyone in this conversation, but it's a very important distinction that I want to make here, which relates to your question, Wendy, about Goodwill. Okay, so, you're in Melbourne, Tracy. Okay, wonderful. Well, thanks for tuning in. So, they've been seeing this therapist, and of course, every time they go there, they're talking about the problem. I've actually sent you an online inquiry recently. Have you? Yeah, best way to get in contact with me, Tasha, is to email me. Absolutely. Send me an email. I'm much better on email than Facebook Messenger or DMs. So if you have sent me one, send me an email. Anyway, so they've been seeing this traditional counselor trying to get past where there's been an affair, and they both want to move forward. But of course, every time they went there, they've talked about the affair, what led up to the affair, how they felt about the affair, what they've been doing since the affair. Like it's all, and so every time, you know, they would come out both feeling triggered, both feeling upset, both feeling like it's impossible for us to move forward, both, you know, with her going round and round and around in her head about what happened, and him feeling like a hopeless, awful person. And so as a result, very, very little low goodwill. And I've just started working with her, and I said to her, I said, I'm going to make a request that you stop seeing the therapist for a while. Let me help you build goodwill, because I said it's impossible, and this is very, very, very important. Okay, when people have low levels of goodwill, and so what I mean by that, they're in a low feeling with each other. So it doesn't feel good when you see the person. You don't look forward to seeing them. What's on your mind is what they have or haven't done, or what they should or should have done, what's missing. So in other words, when you see them, you're coming from a place of fear. Normally, you're normally coming from a place of being in your what I would call your personal mind, and this is where we tend to ruminate, analyze, judge, critique, and so you're almost coming from a place of constant assessment. Okay, now when you're in that space, it doesn't feel good. You don't look forward to seeing the person. You're not excited to see them. You dread seeing them. This is where the whole dreaded cycle of walking on eggshells happens. There's this, you know, it's easy to fall into a space of resentment and justification, or resignation and shutdown, which is very, very common. And so what's happening is all you're doing is creating more low-level feelings between each other. Now, when people are in a low feeling there is no goodwill, because goodwill basically means you are in a good feeling, right? You're in a good feeling. You've got feelings of warmth, feelings of love, feelings of kindness, feelings of appreciation, gratitude, understanding, compassion, right? Well, you look at someone and you see the good stuff, okay? You see the good stuff. So it's very, very important to understand that when goodwill is low, and this is something that's true of all human beings, okay, people are emotionally unintelligent. There's no emotional intelligence there, okay? So I want you to think about what I've just said. You've got, and generally by the time someone reaches out to me, its goodwill is very low. And so the first thing I'm going to do, rather than work on the problem, rather than solve any, you know, go down that traditional approach, which is looking at the problem, looking at communication styles, personality types, compatibility, okay? I'm not going to do that. I'm like, okay, we need to build some goodwill here. Because you actually don't know what you've got until goodwill's in place. You actually don't know what you've got. You're looking at something that's not a true picture of what's possible. And so without any goodwill, you actually don't know what there is to work with. I don't know what there is to work with. You don't know what there is to work with, okay? And so it's very, very important that you build goodwill first. Because when people are in a space of goodwill, they naturally, and this is true, naturally start to think about what's good for the whole rather than what's best for the self. Okay, right? So they naturally start to think about what's best for the whole, so the relationship as a whole, rather than what's best for the self. Another way of calling that, and I call it, they start thinking more about the we than the me. Okay, and I see so many people coming to me and they're so focused on the me. It's not your fault. I'm not blaming or judging anyone, because they don't have an understanding of how we work. And so they innocently, and it is very innocently, they innocently focus on the me. And so all they can see is, why wouldn't they do that? If they love me, they would have done this. If you really love me, you wouldn't have done that. I can't understand why you don't think about this more, or why you don't think about that more. And so there's just more of, from my perspective, you're wrong. Okay? And again, it's very innocent, but it's impossible to move forward from that place. People just keep recontaminating each other. And then people start to feel hopeless and helpless, and they give up, right? They give up. And so what happens is you end up with the worst of you being the place that you connect from, which is extremely dysfunctional. I can't tell you how many people I meet where their basis of communication is through anger, judgment, blame, criticism, manipulation, guilt, regret. That's how they connect. And then they wonder why, okay? People aren't bringing the best of themselves forward. There's not the emotional intelligence in place to do it. And again, please understand me, emotional intelligence and the fact that it goes up and down is a very human being thing. It's not a male, female thing. It's got nothing to do with your sex, your gender, your age, what's happened in the past. People go in and out of levels of emotional intelligence all day long, but we're not taught how to navigate this, understand this. This is a massive part of what I teach, okay? You've got to have this in place as a foundation to know what to move forward from. You can't move forward. It's impossible to move forward when you're drowning in problem, regret, upset, judgment, right? People just feel like they're not enough. People kind of feel like it doesn't matter what I do, I can't get it right. So there's no incentive, right? If you think about it, there's no incentive. There's no incentive. There's no reward. There's nothing from it. And so people just end up drowning in resentment and justification. So if you're struggling, and I know this is probably going to sound counterintuitive, but focusing on your problem is not the way to move forward. You have to create goodwill first, and then once that is in place, then take a look at the problem, because you will be able to look at it with fresh eyes, in a more expansive state of mind, and a more philosophical approach, which is incredibly important. Okay, incredibly important. So I said to this lady, going back to the lady I'm working with this morning, I said, I want you to stop seeing that counselor or the therapist, because you are just caught up in this toxic cycle of blame, judgment. And that's not what she wants. It's not what they want. They actually want to move forward. They're committed to moving forward. They're committed to making it work. So it's kind of like, well, if that's what you want, and I'm listening for what you want, and I'm speaking to what you want in this current moment of now, how much goodwill is there? And there's nothing. All right. So I want you to stop talking about the problem. I want you to create goodwill together. You've got to do that first, and then let's see where we are at from there. Now, one of the beautiful things that happens when you create goodwill is you feel good, right? Like, you get to live in the feeling of that. The other person does. You feel good. So what happens, instead of someone getting in the car to drive home from work and thinking, oh, I wonder what mood she or he's going to be in. Oh God, I wonder if they're going to be happy to see me. Oh, I wonder. Sorry, if you can see someone in the window. I've got a fence. The neighbour's fence has been replaced over the next couple of days. So I've got this lovely guy. I've been taking him out cups of tea, walking up and down the window behind me. So you'll see a little head there. You may even hear a nail gun and a saw in a minute. There's not much I can do about it, because we have a massive storm coming here tomorrow. So they're frantically trying to get the fence built before the storm. Anyway, getting back to what I was saying. When people don't feel good, they naturally gravitate towards other things. So someone will spend more time at work. Someone might spend more time going out with their mates or friends. Someone might spend more time with the kids. Someone might spend more time with their girlfriend. Someone might spend more time in front of the TV. Someone might spend more time drinking alcohol. You know what I mean? You'll go to where it feels good for you, because this is what we naturally do. So what you've got to do first and foremost is make it feel good to be together, right? Now, how do you do that when all you're doing is talking about problem? Think about it. It doesn't make sense. You know, when you create goodwill, you bring out the best in each other. And that is actually the purpose of a relationship, is to bring out the best in each other. So I talk about goodwill a lot. I teach it to my clients, and I make sure that it is in place. In fact, I won't bring a couple together until I know there is a high level of goodwill, because they're just going to have a terrible time. And what's the point of that? I want people to feel good, not feel hopeless and helpless and that there's nowhere for them to go. Especially when you've got kids, you're running families, you're working, and you're juggling all the things, okay? So there is a way where you can actually do this where it's actually enjoyable, believe it or not, right? I have clients that really look forward to talking to me, because we have amazing conversations, not this dread of, oh God, I've got a counseling session and we've got to talk about everything that's wrong and missing, okay? Because goodwill is high. Now, when goodwill is high, people think about the other person. They actually get access to better and different thinking. I've seen this time and time and time again. Been working with a beautiful lady in the States, and she's in her 60s, I think. She and her husband had been married for 50 odd years, and she said since she started working with me, her husband is doing the things that she has been nagging him about for years. Like, he's hanging the towels up after a shower. He's putting the plates in the dishwasher rather than the sink. He's He's actively seeking her out to spend time with her. All of these things. Why? Because she's been building goodwill, because it feels good, right? It's really simple, guys. This whole thing about relationships being complex and hard and tough, they're really not. They're actually really simple. People get really angry with me when I say that, especially on my Facebook ads. They tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. But it's like, I'm telling you, we're actually really simple. And when you understand the way things work and the leverage points, it's easy, okay? It really is. You've got to understand everybody is looking for a good feeling, right? We are. Now, a good feeling, I don't mean joy. Oh, yeah, joy comes into it, but I don't mean, I'm not talking about a positive mindset, okay? That's not even on the same plane as what I'm talking about when I talk about a good feeling. I'm talking about someone who is present, connected, peaceful, calm, open, curious, right? That's what I mean by a good feeling. And it's the depth of feeling you are in rather than what you say or do that makes all the difference. Now, this is another thing people don't understand. So it's a big part of what I teach, how to create that, how to access it, and how to know that that's the space you're coming from, because it has a profound impact on the people around you, right? And it makes it so much easier to solve things and sort things out. So much easier when you understand that. But so many people are trying to sort things out from when they're in a truly awful feeling. And they wonder why it goes pear-shaped. Okay? So I hope that answers your question, Wendy, about goodwill and the power of it. It's very, very, very important. And you can create goodwill with anybody, even if the relationship is broken down and you've got a co-parent, you're doing other things, right? It is possible to do that. And it doesn't mean you're sacrificing yourself or you're being a doormat or all the other things that people will tell me happens, right? It's you understanding something completely different. It's you coming from a completely different understanding within yourself and a very different space. It's you being expansive. When you truly understand this, you get to live in an amazing feeling. Honestly, you do. There's so much that comes from that. It's absolutely a win-win. No one loses from this space. No one. It's good for you, good for the other person, good for the entire family unit and everyone around it, okay? It really, really is. It's good for your well-being. It's good for your mental health. It's good for your spiritual involvement, all of it. Super, super important. So to me, goodwill first, problem second. Because you've got to make sure you're in the right frame of mind to sort it out, okay? It's no different to say, I don't know, I want to run a marathon, but I haven't had any sleep for 2 days and I'm tired. Why would I do that? You know what I mean? Why would I do that? Or I want to run a marathon, but I've done no training. Why would I do that? It doesn't make sense. You've got to get to a point where certain things just don't make sense. And in my mind, why would anyone try and solve anything when they're in an emotionally unintelligent frame of mind, right? I'm not saying you're an emotionally unintelligent person, but you have to understand the frame of mind you are in. This is something people don't even take into consideration. It's very, very important in how you navigate your way through your humanness and somebody else's. So these are the things that I teach, the principles behind relationships, the principles behind human beings. And the principles are universal. So they apply to everybody all of the time. That's what a universal principle is. There's no exception. There is no exception to what I'm saying. It's also a tricky thing for people to get their head around, right? Now, let me just check in. If you haven't said hi, please do, because I know quite a few people have joined us. So I'd love to hear from you, where you are in the world, and let me know if this is making sense or is helpful to you. Give me some feedback. That would be awesome. Now, one thing I just want to say to your comment, Dwayne, goodwill, pay it forward, you invest good energy. Yes and no. So it's not so much about paying it forward either. Because here's the problem with paying it forward. Okay. Hey, Tracy. Hi. Thanks for tuning in. All the way from New Zealand. Beautiful. Love it. Here's the problem with paying it forward or seeing something as an investment. you create an expectation of a return, right? Now, when you have an expectation of a return, this is where it gets a little bit muddy because people get very, very hung up on their expectation and whether they feel they've had enough of a return. So you end up then being in a place of assessing, engaging again. Relationships do not thrive. Relationships do not thrive from a place of assessing, engaging. They just do not. It's actually impossible. You're not creating the right feeling. You're not in the right energy. You've got to understand this. It's impossible for a relationship to thrive from that place. Okay. So Goodwill is understanding your true nature. It's understanding these principles that I teach. It's so much that you come from so that you actually show up to something and you have this empowerment and this freedom to show up to it regardless of how it is showing up to you. Now, that is true sovereignty, right? Now, the more sovereign we are, the more relationships thrive. Because we are showing up from a place of love and well-being and things that is not determined upon something else. This is a very big part of what I teach. And the good thing about it is you have this freedom. People say this to me all the time. Oh my goodness, I have a level of freedom I've never had before. I feel lighter and calmer. I can't believe the difference. And so, particularly for this client this morning, she was saying to me, and we've only just started working together. I think this is our second week together. And she said, the difference, Fiona, with my husband has been, and I've been like so tense, she said, I've just seen so much more about how I'm showing up and no wonder why there's so much tension. And she said, my husband hasn't touched me for months. I haven't touched him. And she said, this morning he got up and he gave me a hug. It's the first time, just out of nowhere. And she said, I can see the feeling is turning between us. I feel the tide is changing. She said, I'm changing. I'm bringing something different to the table. And she said, it feels a lot more empowering than just going over everything, which is so exhausting and getting nowhere, right? You've got to understand, when you feel empowered, you're giving yourself, you're deeply loving of yourself, and you're spreading it out to everyone around you. This is why I say it's a win-win. Good for you, good for them, okay? And as I'm teaching this lady, as I said to her, I said, honey, you are way more powerful than you understand. Way more powerful. You haven't seen it yet. And she said, I feel like I'm waking up. Yes, most of you, and believe me, please hear me when I say this with love, because this was me. Most of you are asleep at the wheel. Really, you are. As to what is possible in regards to the depth of feeling, the choices that are available to you, and what you can create. You feel like things can only change if the other person changes or the situation changes. That's the reality that you work from. And you know what? When we're looking at problem and we're looking at personality types and we're looking at differences and that pretty much looks like the only option. But when you look from a completely different understanding, it's like a whole new world opens up. And this is what I want people to have. This is what I want people to have access to, because this is what creates long-term sustainable change. And I'm talking about long-term sustainable change, where you can be in a place of well-being, and whatever happens, say it's an affair or there's a lie or there's something, is not this shadow that overhangs the two of you. It's actually gone. It's done and it's put in the past where it actually truly exists, which is in the past. The past does not exist in the now, right? You understand that, okay? The past does not exist in the now. Absolutely not, right? It does not exist in the now unless you bring it into the now. Okay, but a lot of people don't realize they're bringing it into the now. The past is done, finished, gone. It's done. The now is the now. It's clean and fresh, and it's up to you what you want to create in the now, okay? So it's very, very important to understand that it is possible for you to come back to a place of well-being. And what I mean by well-being, it would be wherever you were before that thing happened. That's how you know, right? Wherever you were and the level of feeling you were before that thing happened. This is possible for everybody. I do this all day long. And I've worked with people in all sorts of situations. Okay. Now, obviously, the precursor to this is I'm working with people that want to make it work, or they want to create goodwill. They want to do that. But then again, most people, I guess, wouldn't come and see me if that's what they didn't want, right? So you have to bring the want, okay? I'll help you with the rest. I say this to people all the time. The flavor, Dwayne, is all about the energy that you are in, right? That's your flavor. Now, this is something people's biggest blind spot. They have no idea of the energy they're in, and so they don't know the flavor that they are bringing. They don't know it. So, for example, the lady I was talking about this morning, she had a flavor of blame and judgment and resentment. That was her continual flavor. And so her husband was just like, what's the point? No matter what I do, it doesn't change, because her flavor wasn't changing. She couldn't see it because in her mind, and it's totally understandable, and I'm not blaming anybody. This was me, guys. I was the most resentful, blame-filled, angry person you could imagine. That was me. And, I'm not proud of it, but that's absolutely how I was showing up until I came across this. And I'd studied everything you can imagine, everything, NLP. I mean, oh God, I could go on and on and on with the tens of thousands of dollars I've spent in my education and study over decades, right? And I came across this about 10 years ago, and I realized whatever the heck I've been looking for, I just found. And from that moment on, everything changed in my work, everything. I contacted every one of my private clients. I booked and paid for a 2-day event in this gorgeous space. I brought them all there. I started to teach them what I discovered, and I said, this is now where I'm heading. Everything, I want you to unlearn everything I've ever taught you. And if you want your money back, I'll give it to you, because I can't ethically and with any level of consciousness teach that anymore. Every single one of them stayed, and I was still learning it. All right. So when you understand the principles, these universal principles, okay, when you understand them, and I've started to teach them as best I could in my ebook, and then of course I go into this much more deeply because it does require a deeper conversation. All right. In my online program, Relatable, in the modules, in the group calls that we have, which are truly extraordinarily beautiful calls. Okay. So I do that because we have these amazing conversations you won't have anywhere else, conversations that people can't believe they're actually having, right? With people all over the world. We have these beautifully intimate, wise, connected, empowered conversations around how we work as human beings and what that means in our relationships and in our lives. And people come away feeling lighter and clearer and calmer, and they stop the overthinking and the analyzing, and they put down all the justification and the resentment and the judging and all that crap that gets in the way of what you really want, which is connection. Okay? This is what we want. But I understand somehow we don't know how to get there, and it looks like we have to solve all of our problems in order to get there. No, you don't. Hence why I say it's one of, I've got a number of myths that I talk about in my ebook. This is a myth. You have to solve your problems in order to move forward. Absolutely not. Okay? But you do have to understand how we work. And it is not about those things that I talk about, personality types, communication styles, men and women different. I'm talking about universal principles about being human. So when people look in the direction of sameness, they calm down, they feel hopeful, they feel lighter, they feel freer, they don't feel so separate. They actually feel connected to something bigger than them. When we feel connected to something bigger than us, we do really well as humans. We do really, really well, okay? There's a sense of relief that comes from that knowing. And so I've seen people who've been angry, like really angry, and what you would classify, because I think this term gets bandied around a lot, what you would classify as a narcissist or gaslighting and all of those things. And people will say you can't work things out with a narcissist. And to a degree, I wouldn't disagree with that. But there are a lot of people classified as narcissists who are not. In the 13 years, and I'm very familiar with narcissism. I left a true narcissist, with 2 little boys. 19 odd years ago now. It's the reason why I do what I do, because the help I went to get at the time was so horrific. I was distraught. And I made a promise to myself back then, when I was a single mum and broke and frightened and, all of those things, that I would find a better way. And I have devoted myself to finding that. And I truly have found it. I truly, with my heart, believe I found it. A few false starts along the way, but I truly believe I found it. So, yes, I would agree that you cannot turn things around with a narcissist. However, there are a lot of people who get classified as that who are not. They are just shut down, they are stuck, they are frightened, and they have no idea of how to move forward. And so, in the 13 odd years I've been doing this, I've probably only encountered, in all honesty, 4 true narcissists in that time. All right. So now you could argue a true narcissist probably wouldn't go looking for help, and there's probably a fair degree of truth in that statement. But, those people who are shut down and angry and all of those things are genuinely doing so because they do not know how to move forward, and they're in that much pain that they can't see past it. And so they just keep reacting in exactly the same way. All right. So it's really important that, and what I find is when people have this understanding, they have this clarity and they can see for themselves whether this is something that they want to show up differently to, or whether they can see that it's time for them to move on. But they do so without the anger and resentment and baggage and residual upset that people then carry around for years and then infect further relationships with, right? They do so from a place of calm and truth. And so when they move into the next relationship, they're not bringing that one into this one. I see so many people moving through life with what I would call burnt oil. Okay, so many. So what do I mean by that? It's like, imagine you're wanting to eat a piece of chicken, but your oil is burnt, but you don't know it. So you put the chicken in the oil and you cook it, and you take it out and you go, oh, this tastes really burnt. Oh, it doesn't taste good. There's something wrong with it. Oh, you know what? It's probably because I didn't get free-range chicken. I got that cheap stuff that's, full of all the hormones. I'll go and get a piece of free-range chicken. So same oil, you go and put a piece of free-range chicken in. You cook it, you go, oh, it still doesn't taste right. That's weird. Maybe, I did get the cheap kind of free-range chicken. I'll get the top-end free-range chicken, the one from the one that's like $40 a kilo. I'll try that. So you put that in. And it still doesn't taste right. And you think, gee, something wrong with the chicken at the moment. Maybe I'll get corn-fed chicken. And you keep going through life like this. I see people doing this all the time because they're looking out here. Right? They don't know where to look for the answer because they don't understand how we work, and they get confused, and so they keep bringing the past into the present, and they keep reinfecting everything with the same flavor instead of understanding how to change the oil, right? Which is much simpler and easier. Okay, now I'm running out of time because I've got a client session. Hey Tasha, yes. Stop trying to run the marathon right now. That's it, honey. Absolutely. Very important. Dwayne, I would like to know more about getting emotionally prepared with a good positive flavor. What would you like to know, Dwayne? Like I said, the best way to find out, in all honesty, is to do my program Relatable, because I teach it there very, very in depth. There's only so much I can say on a live, but I'm happy to answer it if there's another way I can help you with that. But all of these things, guys, if this is something that interests you, if you'd like to see something from a completely different perspective and bring something fresh into your life and in your relationships, then you must, right, do something different. You've got to make different choices. If you want to bring something different, honestly, Relatable is where I teach you all of this step by step. Okay? Now, if you're sitting there wondering how much is it, it's $997 US. which you can pay in 3 monthly payments of $349 US. As soon as you register, you get access to Module 1. It's a drip-fed program that gets drip-fed to you every 7 days. So Module 1, then Module 2, Module 3. It's not overwhelming or hard to learn. I've kept the videos simple. You can listen to it via the audios. I just had a guy in Canada listen to the whole thing via the audios on his way to and from work, and got everything he needed. I run live calls twice a week on a Monday morning for people in the US and Canada because it's Sunday afternoon there, and on a Wednesday evening for people in the UK and Europe and Australia because it's Wednesday morning there. There's an amazing Facebook community. Honestly, guys, just find a way. Every time in my life when I've been stuck, and I've been broke many times, like honestly, I've had some tough times. The one thing I've invested in has been myself, and I'm so grateful for it. Because it's that desire to do that, to invest in myself, that's got me where I am today. You are worth investing in, right? You are worth investing in. Actually, it was funny. Many, many years ago when I was really struggling, really struggling, going through a really hard time, a difficult custody battle with my ex, and money was very tight, and there was a lot of fear and all of those things. I remember reading an article where a journalist had interviewed Warren Buffett, and the journalist had said to Warren Buffett, "What would you say to someone who's starting over? What would you say to that person?" It was so interesting. And I'm like, oh, now, if those of you who don't know Warren Buffett, he's a very famous investor, multi-millionaire. He's made a lot of money on stocks and shares and all those kinds of things, and still lives a pretty simple life from what I understand. Anyway, I was like, oh, I want to know what Warren Buffett would say to someone who is starting out or struggling, right? And he said, I have 4 words: invest in your head. I read that many, many years ago when I was struggling, and that's when I started investing in programs and learning about relationships, about people, about everything, so that I could now do what I'm doing today. You are worth it. You don't have to live like this. I say to people all the time, having this understanding in my life is literally the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. Really. It's why I wrote the ebook. It's why I do these lives, okay? Because I want you to know there's another way to approach things out there. There really is. Anyway, everybody, I hope this has been helpful, and thank you for showing up. Thanks you for your comments. Thanks for engaging with me. I really, really appreciate it. If you have a question, you can email it to me, hello@fionalucas.com.au. I will put the link for Relatable here. And hopefully, I might see you in the program one day. You can meet some of our other Relatable students and be a part of the family, as people say that, Anyway, everybody, wishing you all the very, very, very best. Lots of love to you all, and I will see you next Friday. Take care. Ciao.